Okay, let's go.
Hai, Assalamualaikum. Selamat pagi. Okay, hari ni kita syuting pagi lagi. Sempena cuti Hari Malaysia, hari ni kita berkampung. Dan di kesempatan ini saya nak ucapkan Selamat Hari Malaysia kepada seluruh rakyat Malaysia. Kita bersyukur kita dikurniakan satu negeri dan negara yang aman damai lah. So kalau kita tengok ada negara yang tak habis-habis berperang, contohnya kita doa kita sentiasa bersama Palestin dan global sumut flotilla yang sedang menuju ke arah Palestin dengan bantuan-bantuan makanan, perubatan dan sebagainya. Dan sebab tu kita pentinglah sebagai rakyat Malaysia untuk kita sentiasa menghargai keamanan dan mengekalkan keamanan kita despite kita ada pelbagai perbezaan mungkin dari sudut agama, bangsa sebab kita multiracial kan di Malaysia. Baiklah hari ni, anda bersama saya Rashika dalam podcast Young Mind season kedua. Ini adalah episod yang pertama. Kita buka lembaran baru di Hari Malaysia. Season yang kedua. Dan bersama saya hari ini, kalau tengok di sebelah kiri saya, kita ada Dr. Ann. Hai Dr. Ann, Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Okey ke kita jemput hari ni, hari cuti ni?
Actually, tak adalah cuti juga sebab still buat kerja kan.
Okay.
So happy to be here. Yeah.
Okay, happy to be. Thank you so much Dr. Ann. Mungkin Dr. Ann boleh perkenalkan sikit diri Dr. Ann sebab saya boleh perkenalkan tapi kalau saya bagi tuan punya badan yang perkenalkan diri dia akan mungkin lebih best lah kan. Flow tu lebih cantik dan orang pun lagi nak dengar sebenarnya daripada Dr. Ann sebab mungkin orang tengok saya alamak dia ni banyak kali nanti akan datang aku nak dengar Dr. Ann. Okay Dr. Ann mungkin cerita sikit mungkin background ke apa tentang Dr. Ann sendirilah.
Okay, this is second time lah I'm doing podcast with Young Minds kan. I think last time was the season 1 punya kan. We talk about other subjects lah. A bit about myself. My background is actually I'm a public health specialist by by my main one lah because my PhD is in public health medicine. But I'm also a registered and licensed counsellor because I also did my masters in counselling back in 2017, 2018, and I'm also a registered and licensed clinical psychologist as well because after I did my masters in counselling, I continued to do my clean psych as well back I think by 2020 lah. So I have been practicing as a licensed and registered counsellor and also as a licensed and registered clinical psychologist for the past like 5-6 years or so. So I have been teaching also dekat UCSI University. I'm currently attached to the Department of Psychology. I'm currently also overseeing PhD in psychology, Masters in Clinical Psychology, as well as other undergraduate punya programs at Faculty of Social Science and Liberal Arts as well at UCSI University. So,
Dr. Ann, tadi Dr. Ann mention pasal counselor dan juga psychology. So mungkin untuk pengetahuan saya juga, sebenarnya apa beza dua ni Dr.?
Beza counsellors and clinical psychologists. There's always been that debate lah
Okay.
between what does a counsellor do and what does a clinical psychologist do. Well, bottom line is that kalau kita tengok lah, counsellors are mainly dealing in the major population, those with or without clinical symptoms, meaning like daily stresses, kalau macam masalah hubungan peribadi ataupun masalah pekerjaan, masalah-masalah yang kita akan hadapi sekiranya kita bekerja dalam toxic environment or working on relationship between us and our colleagues ke, with our partners ke, and some who are specializing in trauma lah, for example ada counsellor yang actually do extra certification for trauma, for borderline personality. They do other certificates. They can actually deal with clinical patients or clinical clients. But for clinical psychologists, we deal mainly with populations who are having, let's say, really severe clinical symptoms like those with major depressive disorder, general anxiety, schizophrenia, even borderline personality, bipolar. And at the same time, we are also trained to provide assessments, multiple assessments, and also diagnosis as well towards the client or patients lah. So I think that is where we kind of like separate in terms of our field of competency, I would say. But at the same time, we do merge in terms of providing mental health services to the population regardless lah. That's why sepatutnya we see a lot of clinical psychologists in the hospital settings or medical settings as opposed to in the population. But now I think because of our current situation where public hospitals do not have orang kata dia tak ada allocation untuk adakan that position as a clinical psychologist. We don't see that many clinical psychologists in public hospital lah. So mainly graduates a clinical psychologist, they go to private practice. That's why we see them a lot in mental health clinics or mental health punya organizations lah or centers. Same like counsellor, tapi dia punya area tu dia ada perbezaan lah.
Okay, doktor, kiranya macam yang boleh bagi diagnose seseorang itu menghadapi masalah-masalah, mental health issue is clinical psychologist.
Correct,
is it?
yeah.
Alright. Sebab yelah kadang-kadang bila kita tengok, senang je kan sekarang kan orang kata, oh aku ada depression, aku ada anxiety.
Right. Yeah,
Kan macam kadang-kadang self-diagnose. Sebab kadang-kadang bila kita scroll, kita baca macam, oh kalau kau ada simptom ni, maybe you have anxiety, you have depression kan. Kadang-kadang self-diagnose. Kadang-kadang kata, oh yelah aku dah pergi jumpa kaunselor cakap macam ni. Tapi kiranya yang boleh betul-betul diagnose adalah clinical psychologist, is it?
Yes, and also kalau nak add on another mental health profession is psychiatrist lah. Psychiatrists, they can diagnose and also prescribe medication. So it's a bit different lah in that sense.
Faham? Kiranya macam walaupun kita selalu scroll, kita jumpa, tak boleh lah kan. Sebab
I mean it's good to be aware of your condition, but it's best to see a mental health professional to get it properly assessed and diagnosed.
Okay, faham. So bila saya cakap pasal scroll tadi kan, kita ada satu saya tak nak cakap penyakit ke, masalah ke. Saya sendirilah macam malam tadi saya keluar, saya balik lambat, saya dah mengantuk sangat ni. Tapi saya macam okay tak apalah, kita scroll lah kejap kan nak tengok TikTok. Kadang-kadang kita macam sambil-sambil nak baring, tahu-tahu dah 30 minit padahal tadi kata mengantuk. Betul. So macam saya rasa ini bukan masalah saya je. Saya tak tahu even mak saya pun suka juga tengok TikTok ni. Ada satu hari tu mak saya phone dia rosak, doktor. Lepas tu dia datang kat saya bila saya dah balik kerja kan malam. Ika, boleh tak Umi nak tengok TikTok kejap sebab hari ni tak tengok lagi. Okay. So itu di level ibu-ibu. Macam kalau kita
level
ialah kita faham. Level mak ayah lah, mak ayah saya kan. Jadi apatah lagi anak muda yang macam gadgetnya canggih. Ada kadang-kadang sampai sekarang kita ada sampai 2-3 telefon kan. Kalau saya perasan kan kadang-kadang satu handphone kerja, satu handphone pribadi. Tapi kadang-kadang boleh je lah dua-dua guna untuk melayari apa-apa media sosial, untuk scroll lah orang kata kan. We have this habit of scrolling.
Right.
Mungkin satu hari nanti kita tak sedar, sampai tidur pun kita macam ni. Kalau dulu mungkin ini adalah zikir. Tapi sekarang zikir yang baru, iaitu scrolling kan. Jadi itulah topik yang kita nak bincangkan hari ini, doktor, iaitu scroll sampai stres, media sosial dan krisis identiti anak muda.
Okay.
Alright. So it's a current issue, it's an ongoing issue. Bukan sahaja anak muda macam saya cakap tadi pasal mak saya tu. Harap mak saya tak tengok podcast ni.
Unless you share the link.
Jadi kan doktor, macam it's a big issue now. Jadi apa sebenarnya pandangan doktor mungkin tentang media sosial ni, about the scrolling issue lah kan?
Okay. Talking about scrolling, I remember one of my student, my undergrad student lah, was also interested in this area kan. And then he actually did a study on doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling,
doom scrolling is the term lah, where you can't seem to stop continuously. I guess there's two sides of the coins lah. For current generation, I think Gen Z and now Gen Alpha lah. Gen Alpha, I think my second punya age lah, around 15, 14 no 16, 15 Dia orang ni memang they were born in technology. I think maybe you were born during technology. By the time you were born dah ada kan mobile phone.
Susah sikit lah. Macam bila saya dah sekolah rendah, okay adalah.
Okay, you were born into the technology. Compared to our Gen X and Gen Y, we're different. We weren't born in a technology punya time where phones are easily readable. Kids, the minute they're born nowadays, dah iPad.
Yeah.
So they're so used to going through all the YouTube and whatnot and things like that. And there's a good side and a bad side things. Yeah, for if you're looking at adolescent lah, remaja kan, they're looking for, if we understand the human development in terms of the theory of lifespan development. Let's say Erikson. This is the time where they're trying to find, like you said, identity. They're trying to find the sense of belonging. Who am I? What am I? What is my interest? Who are my people? So by scrolling, they can understand a little bit more. Okay, I like this. I don't like this. I like to hang around with people who like this, and I like to watch these sort of things. And when you scroll one page, nowadays because of AI, artificial intelligence, they can recognize your pattern of scrolling.
Yeah, algorithm.
So they can detect, okay, you baca things that are related to, I don't know, fashion. And every single time you buka your Insta, you buka, okay, my time Facebook lah. I think nowadays kids tak buka Facebook. Facebook untuk orang tua kan. There, I was mentioned this several times. Insta, or maybe X, Twitter, right? This will come up every single time in their Insta. Okay, the fashion, clothing, all of those things will come up every single time. So they can read already. So what happens is that even if you are scrolling something and you want to stop, your feed, they akan put dalam your feed, and then you're like, oh, I want to check this out. It looks interesting. So the point that you cannot stop is very difficult.
So dia macam dia letak benda yang kita suka. So kita rasa nak tengok lagi, nak tengok lagi.
Exactly. So it's a continuous kind of pattern where we are fall into this kind of trap. And for young kids lah, with no self-discipline, they just like go into that infinite scrolling, which is doom scrolling. Okay, that's one on things that you like. Okay, what about if you are looking up things on social media because of friends, because you want to read something different, you want to learn about something different, and or if you are looking at your friends punya Insta. Okay, and you feel like, how come my friend pergi vacation, pergi meet up with other friends, tak ajak I. So it can create that sense of how come my friend tak ajak I keluar?
Rasa
She's
macam
my
kena
best friend though.
Rasa macam kena betray.
Excluded. You feel like, and then even if, let's say, for example, your ex lah, I don't know, maybe people can relate on this. I had clients who actually literally broken up with the ex and still continuously stalking the ex's punya ni. That could create a lot of sense of pressure, anxiety.
Sometimes my friend also have this problem, doctor.
Yeah.
Dia kata macam this is her way of, macam keeping up with herself. Dia macam this is her move on process lah nak cakapnya.
Yeah, I mean in a way, but to be honest, if it's causing you more distress, I don't think it's a healthy coping way. If you still stalking or you still looking at your ex punya Insta, their reels and whatnot, you're actually looking at who is this people, who is this girl that move on already while I'm sitting here still hung up, kind of thing. So I can understand if you're still processing the breakup, but it's not good to think that it's coping by following through what your exes is doing. What it is just you comparing, why is this person so quick to move on from this relationship when I'm still hung up on it? I still can't continue. Doesn't our relationship means anything to the other person? Cepat betul dia dah cari girlfriend baru. Well, I'm still thinking like the time we spent together, and then it's much more worse if your ex takes the new girlfriend to the places that he used to take you. So how does that make you feel? So that kind of scrolling is not healthy. So there's things that you like, you scroll because you like it. There's things that you scroll because of this need of, coping or trying to make sense of the breakup. So there's many different things. And also friendship. In the friendship perspective, kenapa kawan aku tak ajak? Ini semua all these people I know, kenapa dia tak pernah ajak I? So the feeling of exclusion, then you feel like, now I don't have friends anymore. People don't like me, or that self-defeating thoughts that could lead to the sense of low mood, low depression, and if you keep scrolling, it will only give you a lot of negative emotions, thinking negatively about yourself. So you can actually be depressed because of it or get anxious because of it. And there are clients that I know, they just cut off all social media because it's too much negativity. Because of the scrolling as well.
Yeah.
If you read about, let's say, conflict in Palestine, right? And then
Yeah.
your feed will come up with conflict in Iraq, conflict. Everything will come up with regarding conflict and political turmoil. Everything is so negative.
And sometimes you
know?
rasa macam you want to help but you feel helpless, and then rasa macam maybe tak berguna atau macam too much negative. We don't want to say it's negativity, tapi too much things going on. So kita rasa macam we couldn't cope up.
That's one. Another thing, it could also cause secondary trauma. Where
Secondary
you are
trauma.
like, your empathy is to the extreme, as if you are experiencing what they're experiencing, and you have fear that could happen in Malaysia, let's say in Palestine, whatever kan, or conflict, kena bom, anak pun semua dying, babies dying, all the infrastructure, and then you get anxiety that, oh, what if that happens in Malaysia, and then you get trauma just thinking about it, and you cut off, because you feel like, what's the use if this is going to happen, the feeling of doom, catastrophizing, all of those things. It could
Hopeless
also,
juga.
it could also impact you negatively as well. And some people, they just cut off all of social media and they just become a total hermit, as you can say it. They just do not want, because they're scared. Every time they open their phone, all of this will come out in their feed, and it's scary, and it's just not healthy for them as well.
Yeah, interesting. I suka bila doktor sebut pasal secondary trauma. I haven't heard about it.
Oh,
It's really nice lah. Selalu dengar second hand smoker.
Oh, no. The secondary trauma is something that I'm hearing quite a lot as well, especially when we go into like marginalized population lah, how they have to deal with authorities, and then when they seek help, those who are in the same kind of minority group, they themselves feel like they are being discriminated against, even though they don't experience it firsthand, but they experience it through their colleagues firsthand. So they get scared, they get anxiety, they get that trauma as if they're experiencing it. So this is something that's going on as well among the marginalized group population lah, which I also have to manage as well. Some of my clients are coming from the marginalized population. So that's that. And then there's also those yang secondary trauma because of their line of work, because of the exposure that they get from social media. It is scary.
Yeah.
It is scary, and it's not something healthy as well for anyone if you don't know how to manage it, for sure.
Doktor ada sebut pasal social media and identity building. Okay, sebab sometimes bila kita duduk dalam rumah kita duduk dalam persekitaran dan masyarakat kita, mungkin kita tak terdedah banyak.
Yep.
Tapi bila kita buka social media, kita belajar banyak benda, kita tengok benda-benda luar yang mungkin kita tak pernah tengok lagi, dan kita rasa macam, oh, okay, aku suka ni, okay, maybe ni aku tak minat sangat. Makanan ni macam tekstur dia mungkin aku takkan suka. So contoh semudah itulah. Macam waktu saya kecil, waktu saya pergi sekolah, time tu mungkinlah TikTok belum ada lagi. So kita tengok apa trend dekat sekolah kita. Contoh, pernah satu zaman tu doktor, waktu saya form 3 macam tu, trend dia adalah pakai bag Under Armour. Macam memang ramai orang pakai. So kita nak pakai sebab macam we want to be part of that. We want to be part, and we create our identity based on what people wear, what most people wear.
Sekarang labubu.
Labubu kan. So tapi benda tu kecil tau, sebab dalam sekolah je. Sekolah tu kecil. Tapi sekarang identiti tu dicorakkan globally, orang kata.
Right. Yeah.
Sebab berdasarkan social media. So what is your maybe opinion kan berkaitan dengan identiti dan pembentukan dia tu daripada social media? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Sometimes we just FOMO, fear of missing out. Kita macam, actually we don't want to do that, but we need to do that somehow sebab tak nak rasa macam ketinggalan.
Right. Yeah. Because of peer pressure as well. I think if you look at it in terms of, let's say, social media, does it look upon as a way of social support? Okay, sekarang we talk about support kan, social support. We talk about physical, where you have friends, physical friends kan. But now there's also social support where you have online friends. And these online friends are the ones that you are communicating more than you do with your physical friends, because physical you kena jumpa kan baru boleh nak lepak whatever kan, but you have online friends, you can like lepak all the time because they're
Dalam
always online.
game.
Yeah, in games nowadays, I notice like young kids, 15 adolescents, they're playing Roblox, right?
Yeah. Actually, Doctor, one of my friend just got married last month from games.
Dia jumpa kat games
Yeah.
kan. Exactly. So that's one way of meeting people, I guess. Okay. No more Tinder, no more Bumble, no more like all this
It's
other
just
stuff.
additional lah. I would say additional lah.
I mean, I'm not saying, like I said, it's not a bad thing. They can form good social support. If anything, they form a stronger support system for the people, for the teenagers than the physical ones. Because I notice quite a lot, especially the Gen Alpha kan, they are totally 100% relying on online punya friends. I can see my youngest, like all his friends are everywhere around the world. And he's playing games, Roblox, and then he talks to them in Discord. Obviously, kita as parents like, you sure these are your age? Kan kita tak
Yeah,
tahu
betul,
kan,
betul,
maybe
betul.
they're catfishing. Who knows? It might be.
Yeah.
Okay, another aspect could be pedophilia. We don't know kan.
Yeah.
But I teach lah. I cakap you just look out for certain signs of people online and make sure that they are like genuine people lah. Because I cannot monitor you. Who are the people you are communicating online? But I can teach you some of the things to look out for, just to safeguard yourself. Kita as parents kenalah ajar benda-benda tu, but we cannot sekat tau our kids from accessing social media. They find ways anyway. So it's just a matter of teaching them how to use it appropriately lah. I think and ethically, that's the most important thing. So social support through online is also very important. Where they like I mentioned before lah, where they find people like-minded. So they feel like, oh, I can play games with these people because they have the same kind of thinking with me. And we can talk about a lot of things. And that is a good thing. Because they cannot gel well with the friends from the physical schools kan, because tak boleh nak communicate ke, doesn't think the same wavelength ke. So they find the friends that are online, which is a good thing. Macam your friend tu kahwin kan, jumpa dekat Roblox ke apa kan. I'm not surprised because you're friends with them without seeing them physically for such a long time. You know everything about them except knowing them physically, right?
Sometimes from the game, diorang pergi jumpa physical pula.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
So at least you get to know from the online. So like I said, online social media can actually be a positive thing, especially when we are living in the fact that we cannot run away from technology. Everybody has their online footprint.
Yeah, online
Kan?
footprint.
Kalau tak ada tu, then you question, kenapa lah orang ni tak ada?
Do you really exist?
Or they're like super paranoid.
Yeah.
You get people who are super paranoid. They won't have any footing on the internet at all. Nothing in there. And then you got people who has their online footing everywhere lah.
Sometimes the digital footprint bukan you yang post lah. Kadang maybe sometimes your university post about you. So macam either way you couldn't run lah. You can really run lah.
Yeah, for me yang tak ada digital footprint tu, I'm questioning why are they not having at least something professional.
Yeah.
Kan? At least LinkedIn lah.
LinkedIn.
At least LinkedIn. Walaupun LinkedIn banyak scammer lah, that's fine. But at least LinkedIn to show that you are professional, that we can do some due diligence on checking about your background.
Yeah, betul. Sometimes I think lah macam for now, walaupun if you choose not to have any social media, but if you are applying for a job, your employer will want to see your macam digitally how you behave kan.
Yeah.
So macam at least create a professional punya setting.
True. For us as academics, as researcher, I think our publication, when we do research, we publish Scopus or whatever it is, it's there. But when there's nothing there, no publication, no nothing, and then you claim this and that, we cannot confirm nor deny those existence. Only you based on what you say. So it's a bit difficult lah for us to confirm what you claim. And that's a big that's in question about integrity lah. Integrity and professionalism in this field, because you want people to know your work, you want people to understand your research, therefore your digital footprint is very important lah. And for kids, for young kids, to just bring it back into the conversation we had, is that yes, social media can be beneficial, but it can also be something negative as well that would also impact them. Like I mentioned about, secondary trauma and the doom scrolling, all of those things can impact them negatively as well.
But after all, what you said, like macam you cannot stop your children from, berkenalan in dalam game, but you can teach them how to.
Correct.
Tengok certain sign, this is not healthy.
Right, because as parents, I think online presence is important, but your family punya values is also important. So it doesn't mean that you lepas tangan macam tu. It means that you have to impart more values and more teaching on how the young adolescents lah, teenagers can actually use social media appropriately for their own benefits. Because to be honest, in terms of knowledge lah, macam you katakan, actually they learn more online than they learn in class, to be honest, because teachers can be quite boring lah kan.
And sometimes macam bila diorang belajar online, they choose what they want to learn.
Correct.
And they will be like macam very focused on the niche they like.
Exactly. And because our education is very, orang kata, we use a very general mold template, and everybody just to try to fit into the template, when each child has different ways of learning and different ways of understanding that excites their attention, their interest kan. So tak boleh nak macam orang kata tapau semua budak into the system, because system kita mungkin dulu during my time boleh lah kot, because we have no other options kan. You ADHD ke, you ASD ke, semua tapau masuk sini. Kalau kau boleh keep up, kau keep up. Kau tak keep up, lantak kau lah kan. Habis lah kau masuk lah TVET kan. So they're not very customized. So in terms of education as well, kids learn more online than they do in classes, and this is something that we cannot deny lah. That's why teachers are being taught to be a little bit more innovative, a little bit more creative, to capture the attention of all of these other kids yang tak boleh our macam traditional punya teaching and learning. So they are supposed to create innovative ideas to engage kids, but understanding teachers punya burden workload. I mean, I don't blame them. They just go by, like macam just like ants lah, robots lah. We just continue doing the same thing over and over again. But there are teachers yang quite creative. I know the ones that created different ways of games and to engage kids, students to understand concept in chemistry, biology. I mean, that's great lah. But not all teachers are innovators. That's the thing, and a lot of children tercicir because of that lah. And this is the new norms that we are moving forward, because we are seeing we're talking about trends. We're seeing more and more children with who are neurodivergent, which is those with ASD, diagnosed with ASD, diagnosed with ADHD, and their way of learning is totally different. And our current system tak boleh. So they can be so hyperfixated on one thing online. Like if you talk about they're interested in
maybe cars,
aeroplanes, they will go into history of how aeroplanes are being manufactured. What is the first aeroplane? So they will know from A to Z the history of aeroplanes and all the different crashes that happens. I mean, it's a bit scary lah, but that's their interest. So they know from A to Z. That's how they're hyperfixated on things. So they cannot go into our general program. Tak boleh. They cannot learn. They cannot like be in different subjects. So to them, online social media is good because it's providing them some of the needs that is unfulfilled in a way. Okay, and this is something that we also need to look at by showing that okay, there are areas that kids teenagers can utilize fully online. It's for their knowledge, for their own interests that are not met in the school settings. But they're also on the aspect of, let's say, social support, media, games, and whatnot. So when we talk about social media, we talk about like a whole bunch of different things, yeah? So how do we differentiate like what is good for them and what is not good for them? And how do we manage their utilization so that they can find that balance.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
macam kadang bila kita scroll kan, macam tadi maybe doktor banyak fokus on like school kids lah and teenagers lah kan. So macam mana untuk kita maybe yang lepasan sekolah kan, yang scrolling macam tadi doktor sendiri mention ada pasal knowledge and you learn about other things yang maybe di dalam ruang lingkup sehari-hari tu mungkin tak terjumpa lah kan, sebanyak itu mungkin apa maklumat tentang aeroplane. So macam kita dapat banyak sangat maklumat, banyak sangat isu semasa. Sometimes macam orang kata apa, lambakan maklumat tu dia kadang-kadang overwhelming juga satu. And maybe apa kesan media sosial dan apa maklumat-maklumat ni kepada kognitif remaja ke kan, dan pola pemikiran bila kita mungkin kadang-kadang kita terikut dengan isu semasa. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't know. And sebab contohlah kita dekat Malaysia, kita mungkin ada nilai-nilai ketimuran yang kita uphold. Maybe macam a certain belief, a certain macam moral, maybe dekat Malaysia it's morally right, dekat luar negara it's not morally right. Contoh maybe certain gerakan-gerakan ism di luar yang mungkin kat Malaysia kita tak terima, tapi disebabkan social media we tend to maybe understand and maybe terima ke, we accept that. So
okay, when you talk about that, this reminds me of the time when kita Malaysians were boycotting all the Israel punya macam Starbucks and whatnot and things like that kan, without understanding you want to boycott but without understanding how the boycott actually affect those who are also working in the industry here in Malaysia that may not have direct link
contribution
to Israel, whatever it is, right? And this is the what social media does. It sways people's perception. It can be a double-edged sword. You can either follow, say, oh tak boleh ni barang ni, let's boycott. But some of that are Malaysian, Malay, Muslim owned. You know, for example, some yang kerja, let's say for example kerja kat Starbucks close, what happens to the workers? They don't have any work anymore and they have to go find other places. Are they supposed to be punished as well for something that is way beyond where we are at the moment? So I think because of media persuasion, people just ikut je without understanding facts. And this is something that I think kita kena use a little bit more of our brain to do some fact finding first. Before you ikut and then orang ni cakap oh dia tak boleh makan KFC, tak boleh you are supporting okay, first and foremost let's do some fact finding before we ikut sahaja macam tu. You know, don't just simply follow. Use our brain.
The Quran said like tabayyun first lah.
Yeah, exactly. So find facts first before you decide to make that decision to follow or not to follow. Because last time siapa entah I tengok dekat dalam social media dia kena kutuk habis-habis. One of the I tak tahulah siapa celebrity tu, because brand yang dia jadi ambassador tu is somewhat related to that as well, yang kena boycott tu. So this person pun kena boycott habis-habis. I mean, to be honest, you cannot blame the person. This is part of their job as well kan, as celebrity, muka ambassador whatever lah kan. Maybe that person need to do some a bit more research lah before accepting jobs or whatever it is kan. But at the end of the day, people need to survive. If you boycott everything, then that is dia punya mata pencarian. Dia nak jadi apalah kan after that kan. So then we also need to look at that as well, because you are not just boycotting something, but you are also punishing innocent people at the same time, which is unfair, which is totally unfair. And then some more you kutuk-kutuk lagi orang tu on social media. Orang kalau Malaysia is a top number 1 keyboard warriors in the world. Boleh tutup, shut down Facebook and whatnot. Okay, they're behind keyboards, they're very very good. Tapi depan-depan memang kurang sikit lah kan. Not to not to judge people, but they also need to look at what is the repercussion of their punya decisions lah. So whatever decision we make to support or not support based on the so-called trend or based on what social media is trying to persuade us into thinking, we also have to think on our side first and filter those information. Jangan ikut melulu macam tu. So we have a brain to think and then you need to look in both sides of the perspective. To look into why, like most currently yang apa Charlie Kirk dengan
Yeah.
apa Robinson tu kan, orang kutuk Charlie Kirk, or somebody like, oh he deserves it, and then orang macam support Robinson. I'm like, these are how media persuade the people's opinion
Yeah.
based on what is posted.
Sometimes you think that is your personal opinion, but it actually have been, molded by the media and molded
by the information that you receive. Exactly.
It's not like bukan apa independence punya opinion dah pun. It's actually very biased based on the information you receive and you gathered through social media.
Correct. And this has been going on during World War I and World War II. Actually, they don't have social media. So what they did was they jatuhkan pamphlet that talks about propaganda and all of those things. And that's how people get information, and people get persuaded by those information. And now that information is easily readable at the touch of your fingertip, so how do we strategize in using this to sway people's public opinion on things?
Coming back to our mental health issue kan, sometimes macam saya cakap tadi lah, bila kita suruh kita jumpa ada orang cerita macam, oh dulu waktu sekolah bila aku hadapi situasi ni aku akan panik, aku kena panic attack, so aku ada anxiety, aku ada depression. Maybe lah, in your experience as a clinical psychologist kan, have you ever met a patient yang ada masalah yang sama, maybe self-diagnosed, and how do this thing happen in the cubicle? Is it PNC ke? Boleh cerita sikit ke?
In general lah, I mean, I do get a lot of clients that comes in and say like, oh, I did this online test, I think I have ADHD. I might have sampai to the point I might have borderline personality disorder. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit too complex to self-diagnose kan. So macam you just pick and choose what you want to fit into those criteria, which is very, very dangerous.
Why is it dangerous, Doctor?
Because then if you don't get yourself diagnosed properly, based on whatever you read, you kata, oh, I have borderline personality disorder, or this one cannot be treated. So like people should understand why I'm going through this, because I have BPD.
Schizo.
Or I have this. You're using it as a crutch without properly being diagnosed. It might not be BPD. Misdiagnosis is a very, very huge problem, because then it will affect you in your daily functioning, and also affect other people as well, because you're trying to find answers to why am I the way I am, so what is wrong with me? And if you get the wrong diagnosis, then you follow with that label, then forever it dictates your life afterwards, and you can use it as a crutch, or you can use it as an excuse. And it also impact the people around you. Then the people around you would have to be very, very careful. They're like treading and walking on eggshells when they're around you, because they're scared, oh BPD macam ni, oh kita tak boleh nak bagi dia ni, nanti dia akan jadi aggressive, So that is so wrong, because it may not be BPD, it might be something else, but you are self-diagnosing yourself, which is really, really wrong. So for this, if you don't go and get help properly and get diagnosed properly, then the rest of your life will be dictated by what you so-called self-diagnose. And that's a label that is sticked on you, and forever you'll be like using it as as justification for your behavior later on, which is really unfair for you, and also unfair for the people around you as well. So the ones that do came to kind of like confirm whether they have or they have not, I think that's a good step. So rather than ask ChatGPT, kan, everything is like, oh, I'm feeling anxious. What should I do? What should I do when I feel anxious? Then ChatGPT will give you some generic answer. Okay, generic answer to everybody that asks the same question, because they already, like you said, have algorithm. Whatever prompts that people put, and they are collecting data every single time based on the prompts. And this is the, what do you call that, massive database that AI is currently using to use as a chatbot, to use as like mental health chatbot, but at one point they don't have the answer to everything, and it's very generic. So that's why you need to actually go and talk to mental health professionals to get the help that you needed, not just to get diagnosed, but there must be some aspect of your life that you are facing difficulty or challenges, or not, you won't be scrolling to check what's wrong with you, right?
Yeah, betul.
So in a way,
Actually, you need help.
in a way, it's good to actually go and seek help, because it will definitely build up all the skills that you need, the information that you lack. Best of, it will help you to improve your lifestyle, the way you think, the way you perceive things, and the way you organize things to be a better version of yourself. And I think that's what we want them to do. Even if they say, okay, self-scrolling, okay, I want to confirm, I want to talk to someone about it. I mean, that's a good start. But you need to actually talk to someone about it. Don't just keep it to yourself and then self-diagnose and then just go on with your life thinking that you have this when you don't have.
Because sometimes it can lead to emotional haywire, I would say.
Because then you're like justifying your emotions based on your self-diagnose, which is not right.
Okay.
Kalau you misdiagnose, apa-apa yang you feeling, you justify with your misdiagnosis, you go into that, incorrect perception of how it should be, how you should be behaving, how you should be feeling, how you should be doing things, right?
Doctor, talking about like feeling, emotion, kan, how is that like, maybe social media, can social media really affects our emotion? Sometimes macam, maybe kalau kita scroll, kadang-kadang kita rasa macam, oh okay je aku scroll ni, aku tengok berita-berita like you mentioned just now, macam political turmoil, isu sana, isu sini. Does it really, can it macam affect our emotion? And sometimes maybe lah, when that very person have an issue of maybe came from an abusive family, so they see a news cakap pasal, oh anak kena dera. So we have like this one trend of like spilling the tea. Maybe time tu kita rasa macam kita nak ketengahkan diri kita supaya kita boleh share to the public yang actually I have this problem. Let me spill the tea for you. I've been keeping this for 10 years. Dulu aku pun kena pukul. Aku pun kena, we have this one trend.
Self-disclosure lah.
So macam, pernah ke you encounter this kind of situation where people come to you because of social media affected them emotionally and it triggered their own trauma?
Not directly, but it could be indirectly in a session lah. Just as a passing thing for them to talk about when we're actually focusing on a different issue altogether. But they brought it up as a discussion lah. What do I think about it? What's my opinion? And to kind of like bring back, oh, if I did experience something like this, do you think it has something to do with what I'm experiencing now? It's more of seeking clarification if there were lah. I haven't had any clients coming in talking about, I saw this on social media and I feel triggered about it, so I need to talk to someone about it. Tak ada lah directly. It's more of indirectly. If anything, dia akan cakap, there was this one news that came out a long time ago about this child, That was actually me. But I'm not affected by it anymore because I've worked through it. But now it's a different issue. But it's just a mention it in passing lah. Not so much being triggered lah. Triggered maybe kalau if I have like not session, but if I have like a chat or conversations with my friends and then we talk about current issues and whatnot, then they might bring it up lah. But it's not like spilling the tea or self-disclosure or anything. They just say like, oh, this happened to a friend or something like that, and then they will talk about it lah. But more of a friendly conversation thing among friends, but not in a session kind of thing. I haven't encountered that, to be honest.
Doktor, kita dah ceritalah tadi berkaitan media sosial dengan kognitif, berkaitan media sosial dengan emosi. Sekarang kita nak melompat sikit kepada mungkin tingkah laku lah. Macam mana media sosial ni mungkin membentuk satu tingkah laku terhadap anak-anak muda, terhadap mungkin pelajar sekolah. Jadi ada kekaitan kan sekarang kalau kita nak sebut ni, kita takut sikit nak sebut, tapi kita very academic based lah, kita berborak adalah nak tahu kan, adakah kemunculan ataupun isu strawberry generation ni has something to do with media sosial lah. Sebab macam orang kata dulu, mungkin lah kalau kita dengar the boomers kan cakap macam, Zaman aku tak ada media sosial, elok je aku hidup. Keras je hidup ni, aku boleh strong kan. Tapi dengan media sosial ni terus jadi lembek lah budak-budak zaman sekarang. Macam mana Doktor?
I guess it's also the fact that the exposure tu lah yang what they are seeing on social media, what other people practice in other countries. So they feel like, oh, this is something that is a given. It's our privilege to have this, you know, like for example, we talk about, let's say, their needs. Okay, their needs. I need this, I need that, to find that balance. Kalau force me to study, nanti I stress, nanti I cannot focus. Macam mana I nak dapat apa A ke whatever. So they know what they can negotiate with the parents as well.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that, for example, work life, working lah, kan, they are more aware about their rights at work. So boss tak boleh bully macam tu, or boss tak boleh buat macam ni, is considered to be harassment, or is considered to be workplace bullying. So they know all of these things, so they know that they have rights to contest. So it's not like during our time lah, okay, boss buat macam ni kita ikut je because it's our bread and butter. Kalau we cannot do this, nanti kan kena apa, we have to apa,
Kena pecat.
get fired or something like that. So we have to give our best, kan? So you build tolerance lah. You build tolerance. But for this younger generations, I think the tolerance, resilience too, if we ask the older generations, my generation, they say like the younger generation macam manja sikit lah. Very fragile, hence the strawberry punya generation, kan? Very fragile, tak boleh sini sikit, tak boleh tu sikit. They cannot cope, they cannot form resilience, they cannot stay in one workplace for a long time. They keep changing because tak tahan je belah macam tu. Different than us lah, like, you know, agi hidup agi ngeleban, you know, we all like as long as we're still, you know, we're gonna go. So I think it works on both in terms of coping, resilience, and what they learn from the social media in terms of knowledge. They have a bit more knowledge to use towards their advantage as well.
So would you say that this is a good thing sebab macam by their knowledge they can stand up to themselves, and juga like you say agi hidup agi ngelaban kan. I read somewhere lah, dia cakap macam my father and mother's generation, they work to survive. But we macam maybe we have like a better situation. We are not in survival mode tau. So hence we can make our choice. Okay, kalau kita rasa macam kita tak boleh nak kerja kat sini, rasa macam stress, kita boleh berhenti sebab, you know, we have our parents. Kalau dulu our parents, maybe their parents is not capable of, you know, nak bela diorang sampai tua kan, sampai dah tu. So the situation is like quite different, and by the knowledge we can stand on our feet. You know, kita tak nak orang like pijak us, and we demand our rights. So what about that?
I mean, that's the thing. If they don't have their parents to be the foundation to fall back on, are they still going to think the same way? Kan? Because the parents are the ones that have already established a very strong foundation where they can always fall back to their parents, that they feel like, oh, I don't need liability. I don't need to hold down a job to get a house. I don't need it because I have my parents' house. You know, I don't have to buy a house. You know, I don't have to work really hard to buy property or buy a car because my parents can provide it for me. Or I can stay with my parents. I don't have to pay a single cent. But there are also the ones that do want to establish on their own, which is fine. But because of that, there is no sense of, I would say, goals in life, what they want to achieve. But I do see a lot of them, their goals is like, oh, I want to work for a bit and then get some money, then I want to travel the world. And then I'm not going to work for a bit, and then when I come back, when I don't have money, I'm going to go find another job, because they know they can find other jobs. You know, they know they can find and save up for things. To them, for us, our generation is very trivial. Nak travel the world, tunggulah you dah ada rumah, you dah ada kereta, then you can enjoy later.
I think because like during your time, I mean maybe our parents' time kan, macam
your parents' time is my time lah
okay,
tu.
macam it's imaginable for you to have a house, to have a car, using your money yang you daripada kerja tau. But for our time, macam our punya ratio of like gaji dan juga barang-barang rumah and kereta. You know, I read this one calculation lah. Maybe in 1990 kan, kalau you hanya kerja, let's say, untuk you beli satu kereta, gaji you selama mungkin 5 tahun ataupun 3 tahun. Tapi sekarang kalau you nak beli kereta, you kena simpan gaji you mungkin 20 tahun. So sometimes apa yang kita rasa adalah macam quite putus asa untuk ada aset-aset ni semua. So let we just live our life lah. You only live once lah. YOLO lah orang cakap. And also sometimes I think macam my generation, we mostly kita kahwin a bit late. And kalau kita kahwin pun, we have like anak yang kurang daripada zaman mak ayah kita. So the liability is like lesser lah. So that's why maybe macam we tend to, you know, spend our money elsewhere. Macam, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand that you want to live, like enjoy your time as a moment. So whatever you earn, whatever you have is for you to enjoy the things that you want to enjoy at the moment without thinking like long-term kind of investment and whatnot. I mean, that's the different opinions of different generations. That's why for us, the older generation, we also have to kind of be in tune with the younger generation, why they are the way they are. So if we, let's say, in the education field lah, as an academic, we need to think of, okay, how does this younger generation work? You know, what do they like? What do they don't like? So we also have to accustom in terms of their teaching and the subjects that they teach to what they enjoy and they like best, as opposed to forcing them to take something that they're not going to enjoy, they're not going to like, hence will affect the quality of the teaching as well. And then maybe they use a lot more interactive things when they teach, as opposed to us traditional is like cakap. You know, slides, you know, slide pun very boring slide. Macam diorang ada like, guna Canva, Kahoot, all those things. And that's a different approach. So we need to look at what is their strength and use that strength to elevate the way they teach. And we also have to learn of all of these things as well. So I think it's vice versa lah. I think for our generation to understand the younger generations, and for the younger generation to also understand how we work and to be respectful in both ways lah. There are advantages of the younger generations in terms of works, professionalism and whatnot. They are a bit much more bolder, I would say, compared to our generation. Kita macam, kalau nak cakap tu tak boleh cakap direct tau. Macam berpusing-pusing. Younger generation, they just speak their mind. They don't care.
Berlapik lah.
Kita berlapik. Dia orang like very bold. Cakap aja macam tu. They have no care. They're very, very, orang kata very bold lah. Very berani tau. And this is what I see in the younger generation. To the point that sometimes I feel like
borderline rude?
More like the empathy is not there. It's more of very apathetic. Like you only think very egocentric, like you yourself, what you think, but you're not thinking about the consequences if you say that towards the other person. So there are pros and cons lah, I think, in terms of the different.
Do you think it's because of social media?
Yes, because they learn from social media that you speak your mind. You're not happy, you speak your mind.
And sometimes when you have anonymous accounts, so you can, you know, hide behind that, so you can say whatever you want.
Exactly. I mean, in therapy, we say that sometimes you need to be a bit more assertive. But being assertive versus being bold is also a different thing altogether. So this is something that we need to find that balance lah. So I think all the generations need to be able to understand and be respectful of each other, and also look at what are the strengths of each of the generation and use that strength to kind of like compensate, or not compensate lah, to kind of like match what are the weakness of the other generation. So I think this is where for us, leadership plays a very important role lah, and for parents to look at, okay, apa anak aku ni good in what, because this generation tak boleh nak push sangat, nanti dia stress. Okay, let's try to find how we can encourage them positively as opposed to punishing them. Punishing doesn't work, for example. So positive reinforcement, okay, what can we do? So even our parenting style also change as well compared to our parents. Our parents is corporal punishment, sikit-sikit rotan, sikit-sikit rotan, tak rotan pun hanger kan. So kita grew up in that, you know, like we know we don't want our children to be inilah rotan bersama kan. So we don't do that. So how do we impose discipline? So how do we impose respect? How do we impose all of these values without having to use disciplining in terms of corporal punishment? Because corporal punishment inflict fear. And you follow because you're fearful. But we don't want our children to be fearful of us. Then they won't say anything to us. They get into trouble, they're not talking to us like we did with our parents. Okay, I never talked anything to my parents, everything I went through, because I'm scared. I don't want to disappoint them, and I don't want them to see me as a
Failure.
weak person or whatever it is, or look down at me because I'm not able to do things I'm supposed to do. But I don't like that feeling, and I don't want my children to grow up feeling that way. I want them to respect me as a parent, and I want them to open up to me and not feel fearful that they did something wrong. That, of course, yeah, you did something wrong, but you don't hide it from me. Come up to me and tell me so that we can work through it.
And I can help you.
Yeah, and as long as lesson learned, you don't do it again. That's the most important thing. But you always come to me first when you get into trouble. But obviously, you shouldn't get into trouble in the first place lah kan. But biasalah, budak-budak kan, we understand. But they need not feel fearful to come up and talk to me about it and find a solution to the problem. Because then I know if they get into trouble, I'll be the first one to come running for them, because I'll be the first one they call. Because this is the problem that we see on our generation. We don't call our parents, we call our friends when we get into trouble, because we don't want to get our parents to worry or get angry at us, because we're scared they get angry at us. But if we are a safe space for our children, we want them to be able to come up to us and approach us if they have problems, because then we know what's going on. If they have trouble, they're going through some certain challenges, at least they can talk through with us and we try to find a solution. We can actually deal with it before it becomes worse.
That's really good lah. Macam we want to become our kids' emergency contact lah.
Yeah. Where they can know that they're not going to be judged, or they're not going to be screamed at, yelled at, rotan or whatever it is kan. So it was that sort of disciplining is enforcing fear lah, which is a different type of parenting. So our parenting is different. Dia orang punya parenting later on might be different. I don't know.
It maybe depends on the situation lah. And zaman tu macam mana kita tak tahu kan.
Exactly.
Lepas tu doktor, kalau kita cakap pasal social media juga, we like you mentioned about doom scrolling kan. So we came across this one term of brain rot, iaitu kalau saya mudah-mudahkan, dia adalah macam the deterioration of like mental state or like intellectual state because of like so much information online. Kemerosotan intellectual disebabkan terlalu banyak informasi-informasi dari media sosial. Is it a real thing? And how does it affect us?
Like if you look at the neuropsych of things, in order for our brain to be like firing all kinds of neurotransmitters and signals, it needs to be exercised. Kan? So just like when we work with people who have, let's say, mild cognitive impairment before dementia and whatnot, kan, we are telling our patient to constantly do activities that works on the brain muscles. That means thinking where you are like either reading things that are really heavy, very intellectual, like reading papers or reading news pun okay juga lah, I think. And then playing games that are, let's say, memory type of games, word challenge,
it's
all
like
those
macam
things.
bagi otak kita pun berfikir. It's not just receive, but you need to
process the processing of the information, and what do you make of it, how do you interpret it. But if you watch like all those stupid YouTube videos that prank ke benda kan, you just laugh and nothing actually going on in your brain. You're not analysing it.
Otak tidak berhubung.
So you're not exercising those brain muscles or those brain cells. Hence, they're not firing up at places it should be. You're not exercising your memory, you're not reflecting, you're not analyzing, you're not doing all of these things. So your brain just macam static lah, just like watching a movie without thinking about it.
I remember I heard this one video, like I saw this one video, and he said like we used to memorize our parents, our family's phone number because we need to use the public phone.
Yeah.
We gonna use the macam telefon rumah, and then we used to, I mean maybe I haven't experienced that lah because I'm the newer generation lah, but people used to memorize the road if you want to go back to your village. But right now everything is like saved in your phone. If you want to go somewhere, you just tekan Waze and Google Maps, and everything is there. Maybe lah, dulu tak ramai orang ada handphone, so possible for you to hafal, but you still hafal though.
Yeah.
Kan? And then jalan raya dulu tak complicated now, but you used to hafal. But sometimes right now kadang-kadang you went there like few times, but you couldn't memorize it anymore. So macam sometimes macam bukan saja social media, but all the technology membuatkan kita tak perlu dah berfikir sangat, dah tak guna dah banyak sangat kan.
Yeah. I totally agree, because when you know that you are relying too much on technology, let's say someone takes you to one place, right? You don't pay attention because you don't think like, okay, next time I want to go this, I just need to know where it is and put it inside my Waze.
Yeah.
And that's something that I felt was the disadvantage of having the technology lah. Because that I can macam nak datang sini lah, I came here before because I rely on Waze kan. The second time I came also sesat juga, because I'm like nak jalan sini ke nak jalan sini, and I remembered the place but I don't know how to get there. I know it's somewhere here, but to get there I tak tahu, so I still need to use Waze. So pakai Waze pun sesat. So to me it shows that okay, there are things that where we are relying too much on all this technology. Yeah, we're not utilizing some parts of our brains where we need to process information, like you mentioned, and that can actually lead to long term macam muscle lah. If you don't exercise your muscle wasting kan. Same thing with your brain.
Sedangkan brain is like heart lah kan of our body.
Yeah, and it could lead to early mild cognitive impairment or early
Alzheimer?
dementia.
Ada?
Dementia, severe dementia can lead to Alzheimer's.
So macam we are not opposing the technology, but at the same time we need to find activities yang can still make us use our mind, our brain.
Yeah, you can balance lah, because there are things on the internet that could actually help with your cognitive processes. But if you're spending too much time on irrelevant things,
I think macam as simple as like word puzzle.
Yeah. I always play games, matching games ke, whatever games lah. That's something that needs to be done apart from reading materials and stuff. Yeah.
Betul. Also like in our social media era kan, kita ada the very, I would say a very important person, or like in someone we look lah in social media kan, what we call influencer lah, atau in Malay pempengaruh kan. Sometimes you would hear these influencers, sometimes they just express their opinion, but their opinion will influence people because they are influencer. The influencer is like you can influence people, that's why you are being called influencer. Sometimes maybe ada opinion pasal you don't have to go to university. You like maybe just use the social media, you can make money lah. You don't have to go and learn. And what is your opinion on that?
I mean, I have nothing against influencer, I would say, because that's how they make money. But I do have something against influencer who are sharing information that are incorrect. For example, I don't know if you heard about this big issue about Ihati last time.
Sorry?
Ihati,
Okay.
the one in Shah Alam. There was a big hoo-ha thing. This lady, initially she called herself as a counselor, and then she said like, oh no, she's a coach. And then there was a whole big thing that all the ladies went there, and then it was like really weird things happening there. And she's actually an influencer. She wrote a book about how I managed to turn my life around, whatever it is. And she got so many followers in Instagram. It came across my feed. It was in Facebook. And she charges quite a lot as well for all these women who are, to me, I feel like it's just taking advantage of vulnerable women who should be seeking mental health services rather than going to this e-hati kind of thing. Because they're promoting what's it called? I forgot the name. The new something where they talk about reborn to the new you. I'm like, what? So that can persuade people into something really wrong because it's a very misconstrued, misappropriateness of information being shared on social media, and these are followers, her followers, which is really really wrong, and using the name of I think something to do.
Like they claim lah to be whatever they want to be kan.
Exactly, and they are not trained, they are not properly certified, and they just like, it sounds like they just dump things and then make it into a program, and then this is what they're selling to women. They sell it for like 5,000, 10,000. People are paying so much out of their pocket, their hard-earned money, to look at something like a miracle kind of solution for their life, right? When they should just see a counselor or a clinical psychologist. But anywho, so this is what I'm saying. Influencer can actually provide wrong information to their followers, and nobody is monitoring them, what they say and what they do, and people just follow it because, oh, I believe in this person changed their life, so I want to be like that. So to me, influencer plays a very important role, but depends on how they share information. If it's accurate, that is fine. But if you are not specializing in that area, abstain from saying things that are inaccurate, because it is giving a false information and also false pretense to people that are following you. And this is why, like for counselors or for clinical psychologists in our field, we cannot be influencers because we should not be advertising our services in that way.
Yeah.
Giving educational talks, awareness, all those things can. But we know we are in this field because we truly want to help people. We're not trying to make money. But influencer, they just basically say anything to gain followers, and then they promote things. At the end of the day, after they pancing you, then they start selling lah. Oh, we have a program coming up, join us for da. And people get drawn into it because that's one of their tactics, strategies of getting people to subscribe and also to be part of their followers, and then for them to sell their product. Because you have to understand in terms of marketing, brand loyalty, marketing, because I also did my MBA, so I know all of this stuff, is that you need targeted population or targeted consumers are much more successful than having general macam tu. So when you have a loyal followers like 1,000 subscribers, I can guarantee you at least 100 will purchase your product. Sebab tu dia guna all these influencer to sell perfume lah, to sell
to review product,
and then like testimony. To be honest, testimonial is the least trusted evidence. But people fall for it. It's like, oh, testimony, akak ni pakai ni, oh dah putih dah muka dia, akak ni pakai brand ni, oh nampak ni tak melekat, la. But people fall into it as opposed to having proper evidence, because we don't know what's the content, we don't know what is the value, we don't know anything about it. It's just that, oh, orang ni kata it works for them. But 100% most of the time it doesn't work. It's just testimony. So influencer uses that to get people to purchase the product, whether it works or not. What's 10 ringgit per person? If you have 100,000 people buying your product, you've already made berapa? 1 juta. I don't know. My maths is out. So that's what I'm saying. So influencer actually have an ethical and professional and responsibility to make sure that whatever they share online is appropriate and accurate. But this is something that they don't, as long as they make money. So it's very hard for me to say that I 100% support influencer, because that's their bread and butter, and it follows trend. 1 minute you're making millions, and then 1 minute nobody gives a hoot about you. who are you kind of thing. So it follows trend as well. It's just like, what are the things that can cause viral that will sell your product, that people are drawn to you and people want you to be their ambassador. They make money through that. So to me, if you want to share some information, you might as well share proper and accurate information. Don't just sharing for the sake of sharing and then just make money out of it. Because they go out and give talks and they get paid a lot. You know, we give talks, sometimes it's for free because we want to genuinely help people. They're just in it because they want to get paid. And people take them because, people trust whatever they say because they used to be like this, but they're not specialized in those area. And this is something that I think people lah yang go online and follow this influencer, you also need to think lah whether or not the information shared tu is actually appropriate or is it accurate ke tak. So you kena do fact finding jugalah at the end of the day. Janganlah ikut follow buta-buta macam tu tau. So we also need to use our consumer rights to check whether or not this is appropriate ke tak. Kalau tak appropriate, you have every right to highlight it to the influencer that they shouldn't be. We're not like moral policing them lah, but we also want to make sure that they don't bring harm to themselves by spreading things that are inaccurate.
Yeah, because sometimes macam there are legal consequences upon them juga. So macam it's not just for the followers lah.
Yeah, you're in law, you should know.
Macam consequence kan. So maybe Doctor, maybe last 1 minute, anything to say about media social and about scrolling to the teenagers and anak muda.
Okay. I think at the end of the day, we cannot stop technology. We cannot stop social media from ever evolving with AI and everything, and we cannot stop our generation, our young ones, to not use mobile phone or not scroll. Like I mentioned, we just need to educate them a little bit better. And also to make sure that they're always in a safe space. And if they're not in a safe space, that we are there to support them and they are able to also connect with us as parents or as friends to kind of navigate and help them find better ways of managing and finding that balance on social media and also in real life lah. Because we don't want them to spend too much on social media that they forgo or neglect their physical life here with their family, with their parents, with their friends. But at the same time, we cannot not deny the fact that they also get their support from here. So social media plays an important role as well. So it depends on how best to balance and to understand which one would benefit them and which one is not beneficial from them.
So always have pros and cons lah.
Exactly. At the end of the day, cannot say cannot lah.
Susah sikit lah kan.
Yeah.
How you manage lah at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So macam memang scroll sampai stress ni memang adalah fenomena yang I would say is happening. It's a real thing. Yang sometimes kita kat rumah, kita tengok kawan kita, kau dah sampai Switzerland lah. Minggu ni kau pergi Switzerland. Next week you pergi Japan. Within these 2 weeks, the farthest place I go is like mamak depan rumah I je. You dah sampai ke mana-mana dah.
Right.
So it's a real thing. And sometimes when I think like when social media consume you, maybe you need to put a break a bit. And macam, realize things. Sometimes macam we have so much things to be grateful for. Tapi sometimes bila we tend to like social media tend make us to compare ourselves macam our life and other people.
Correct.
Because no one really post about like kesusahan dia kan. We only post like the good side of it lah kan. The good side of our life. So sometimes kita rasa macam aku juga yang sedih-sedih ni kan. So actually macam it's how we manage our social media lah kan. Consumption janganlah kita too much on it and just manage lah macam Dr. cakap.
Right, yeah.
So I think it's a very good sharing from Dr. Ann. Thank you so much sebab sudi terima jemputan Young Minds untuk bersama-sama dalam podcast kita. Episod kedua siri yang pertama. So jangan lupa teruskan menyokong Young Minds. Kita punya podcast ni kita akan hadirkan anda dengan lebih ramai lagi kita punya panel yang berwibawa, berkaliber macam Dr. Ann. Mungkin kita jemput lagi Dr. Ann kalau kita ada permintaan yang tinggi. Jumpa lagi dalam episod akan datang. Saya Rashika dan Dr. Ann. Assalamualaikum. Bye-bye.
Bye.